Before we begin, please be advised. This content is presented for educational and entertainment purposes only. The information you're about to hear is based on alleged federal courtroom testimony from the Sean Diddy Combs proceedings, as reported by Inner City Press. Now imagine the most unexpected twist in a high-profile federal trial. The media is already buzzing, the courtroom packed, tension so thick you could cut it with a knife. Then it happens. Leonardo DiCaprio, Oscar winner, environmental activist, global celebrity walks into the courtroom. Not as a guest. Not as a character in a film. But as a key witness. What followed has been described as the most explosive testimony of the decade, a harrowing account that shattered illusions about celebrity culture and lifted the curtain on a world very few ever glimpse. For the next few minutes, we step into that courtroom. And into DiCaprio's truth. A high-stakes federal courtroom. Tension hangs like smoke in the air. Outside, journalists are camped along the courthouse steps. Inside, no cameras are allowed, yet the atmosphere crackles with electricity. Everyone is waiting. Something is coming. Then, it happens. The room stirs. Gasps ripple across the gallery. Leonardo DiCaprio has entered the courtroom. Not for a film. Not for a gala. But as a witness. He's dressed in a dark, somber suit. His expression? Shaken. Focused. Measured. He walks, deliberately, toward the witness stand. Every step echoes. Every eye follows. This isn't Hollywood. This isn't scripted. This isn't a role. This is real. And in that moment, the room understands. This isn't a cameo. It's a reckoning. Because today, Leonardo DiCaprio isn't here to perform. He's here to tell the truth. Leonardo DiCaprio begins to speak. His voice, trembling, yet steady, carries through the silent courtroom. He recalls a night etched permanently into his memory. A single invitation from Sean Diddy Combs. An event described as exclusive, elite. Unforgettable. Out of curiosity, he accepted. After all, what could go wrong? He expected the usual, champagne towers, celebrity networking, and the typical Hollywood glow. But what he found was something else entirely. Something darker. The location was remote, intentionally so. A sprawling mansion, hidden away from public view. Security was beyond tight. Armed personnel. Gated access. No one got in or out without clearance. Guests didn't just drive in. They flew in on private jets, shuttled discreetly from a nearby airstrip. Everything about the evening screamed wealth, control, and exclusivity. But beneath the luxury was something unsettling. DiCaprio describes the air of secrecy. Not the fun kind that comes with exclusive parties. But the kind that makes your skin prickle. There were no cameras, at least none visible. People whispered instead of spoke. Certain areas were off-limits. Guards redirected anyone who strayed. He recalls thinking, this doesn't feel like a party. It felt staged. Like a production. One he didn't fully understand, yet. And in that moment, sitting in the witness chair, Leonardo DiCaprio made it clear. This night didn't change his career. It changed his understanding of celebrity, power, and what it means to be invited into the inner circle. At first glance, it was everything you'd expect from a Hollywood elite gathering. The driveway sparkled with high-end cars. Inside, guests floated through grand halls in designer suits and evening gowns. Crystal chandeliers hung overhead, and gold-rimmed flutes of champagne caught the light just right. Luxury was everywhere. Servers moved with precision, offering rare delicacies on silver trays. Soft jazz hummed in the background. The ambience. Impeccable. But for Leonardo DiCaprio, something wasn't right. He felt it almost immediately. A strange undertone. A tension that didn't match the setting. Certain rooms were off-limits. When he tried to explore, he was quickly redirected. Private area, they said, always with a smile, always polite, but firm. He started noticing the faces in the crowd. Some guests looked uncomfortably young, far too young to be sipping expensive liquor at an adult-only event. Their expressions were tight, nervous. Like they didn't belong, or didn't want to be there. And then there was the mood. Beneath the laughter and music, something was off-kilter. It wasn't just exclusive, it was controlled. Curated down to every detail. Guests stuck to their assigned zones. Security hovered near key doors. This wasn't a party. It was a performance. But no one was acting freely. And as DiCaprio stood in that witness box, recounting it all, his words cut through the courtroom silence. It felt orchestrated. Like every moment, every movement, was being watched, guided, manipulated. This wasn't just discomfort. It was the first sign that he had stepped into a world far more dangerous than he ever imagined. And then, the bombshell. Leonardo DiCaprio leans forward slightly in the witness chair. His tone shifts, measured, deliberate. He recounts the moment everything changed. He was exploring the mansion, trying to shake the unease that had settled over him. Then, down a quiet hallway, he noticed it. A partially open door. Just ajar. Just enough to see inside. He hesitated, then looked. What he saw wasn't a party room. It wasn't a lounge or a VIP suite. It was something entirely different. Inside were cameras, positioned, recording. People weren't mingling. They were arranged. Standing still, in formation. Eyes vacant. Movements calculated. And there, at the center of it all, Sean Diddy Combs. Not entertaining. Not socializing. Commanding. Directing. Controlling. The glamour, the luxury, the charm of the evening, gone. Stripped away in an instant. What remained was cold. Manufactured. Sinister. DiCaprio pauses, glancing around the courtroom before continuing. It wasn't a party anymore, he says. It was a production, one with an agenda I wasn't meant to witness. The gallery erupts. Audible gasps echo through the room. Even the judge, visibly unsettled, calls for order. The gavel strikes. Murmurs ripple. The moment hangs like smoke in the air. Because in that instant, the illusion shattered. This wasn't a night of celebration. It was a carefully crafted operation, one that DiCaprio had accidentally stepped behind the curtain to see. And what he saw would haunt him forever. After the recess, Leonardo DiCaprio returned to the stand. He was calmer now, his voice steady, but the chill in his words was unmistakable. He described a single moment burned into his memory. A flash that would haunt him long after that night ended. He recalled walking through the mansion, tension already thick in the air, when he saw her. A young woman, barely 20, seated alone on a red velvet couch. She was surrounded by older men, each dressed in tailored suits, sipping drinks, laughing too loudly. But she wasn't laughing. She wasn't smiling. DiCaprio paused. Then he said, "I caught her eye, just for a second." But it was enough. He described the look on her face. Not confusion. Not discomfort. But pure terror. She was pleading, he said. Not with her voice, she didn't speak. But with her eyes. Like she was screaming silently, and no one heard her. He looked away for a moment. The courtroom was silent, gripped. That look, he said, never left him. It wasn't the kind of thing you forget. Because in that glance, he saw the truth. This wasn't just a party. This was something very wrong and very real. Disturbed by what he had seen and feeling the growing weight of the evening, Leonardo DiCaprio decided to leave early. But when he asked for his ride, he was met with an unexpected obstacle. His transportation had been delayed. No explanation. No apologies. Before long, a man approached him, calm, polite, yet unmistakably firm. A handler. He told DiCaprio. They value you too much to let you leave so suddenly. There was no room for argument. Instead, DiCaprio was escorted to a glass-walled lounge, a transparent cage within the mansion. Inside, there was no phone signal. No way to reach out. No escape. For over an hour, he was trapped, forced to watch the party continue around him, while he remained locked in place. Isolated. Monitored. Confined. A guest no longer free to leave. The glamour had long since vanished. And the true nature of the night revealed itself in that moment. Control. After that night, everything changed for Leonardo DiCaprio. What once felt like a promising career path suddenly became a series of stalled projects and unanswered calls. People in the industry, friends, colleagues, even longtime contacts, started keeping their distance. It was as if an invisible barrier had been erected around him. And it wasn't just him. At industry events, when he crossed paths with other attendees from that night, they exchanged knowing, haunted looks. Eyes that told stories they couldn't speak aloud. Stories of fear, silence, and being marked in ways no one dared explain. Then, the silence was broken. An anonymous call. A chilling message. Let it die. A warning. A threat. A command to bury the truth forever. But DiCaprio refused to stay silent. Because some stories demand to be told no matter the cost. So why speak now? Why break the silence after all this time? Leonardo DiCaprio's answer was simple yet powerful. No one's too big to fall, he declared. Not even you. He looked Sean Combs straight in the eye. His voice steady, unwavering. The courtroom held its breath. Every eye fixed on that moment, the clash between truth and power. This wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about settling scores. It was about something far deeper, justice. A call to accountability. A challenge to those who believe their status puts them above the law. DiCaprio's words echoed beyond the walls of that courtroom. A message for Hollywood, for the world. No one is untouchable. No darkness can stay hidden forever. Because when truth speaks, the powerful must listen. Then came the darkest revelations. Leonardo DiCaprio's voice grew quieter, almost haunted, as he unveiled the truth beneath the surface. He spoke of a blackmail operation. Lists, secret and damning, used to control, manipulate, and silence. He described hidden surveillance systems. Cameras and listening devices embedded deep within the estate's walls. An architectural trap designed to watch every move, record every word. And then, the most chilling allegation of all. That people were being held against their will. Not just victims of a single night gone wrong. But pawns in a calculated, systematic network. A network built on fear, shrouded in silence, fueled by exploitation. DiCaprio painted a portrait not of glamour or fame, but of darkness and cruelty hiding behind the masks of power. This wasn't a scandal. This was a nightmare made real. And as he spoke, the courtroom felt the weight of his words, a truth too heavy to ignore. This wasn't just about one man. It was about something much larger. An entire culture. A culture where silence is bought. Where intimidation becomes currency. And where darkness lurks just behind designer curtains. Behind the glitz. Behind the flashing cameras. Behind the carefully crafted illusion of fame. This trial didn't just expose an individual's actions. It raised a question that echoes far beyond the courtroom walls. What else has been hidden? What secrets lie buried beneath the sparkle of celebrity? The glamour of Hollywood's brightest lights? How many stories remain untold? How many truths kept silent by fear and power? As the trial unfolds, so does a reckoning. A demand for transparency, for justice, and for change. Because when the veil is finally lifted, we must face what's been concealed. Not just for one man, but for an entire culture. The courtroom couldn't contain the explosion. The moment Leonardo DiCaprio's testimony hit the air, the world reacted. Headlines blared across news outlets. Journalists sprinted to publish every detail. Social media ignited, hashtags trended, debates flared, and public trust in celebrity culture began to tremble. Suddenly, Diddy wasn't just a name anymore. It became a symbol. A symbol of something far darker, something rotting beneath Hollywood's polished surface. A facade built on silence, power, and fear. DiCaprio ended his testimony with a powerful plea. Not for fame or attention, but for one simple demand: accountability. I stayed silent for years, he admitted, voice firm. But not anymore. Those words echoed beyond the courtroom walls. They shook the foundations of a trial. And perhaps, of an entire industry. Because this moment was more than testimony. It was a reckoning. A call to those in power to confront the shadows they've long ignored. To shine light where darkness has thrived. So, I leave you with this question, one that lingers long after the courtroom doors close. When truth becomes too dangerous to ignore, who dares to speak it aloud?